Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday. I'm your host, Lauren Meisner, the founder of the youth digital media brand Centennial World. Welcome back to Mini Scroll, everyone, and happy May 1st. Wow. That is wild. So we have officially been doing Mini Scroll for a full month now. I can say it has absolutely destroyed my schedule. No, but in a good way. It's giving me so much purpose every day, for real. It's been a bit of a struggle to find my rhythm, but I'm loving it so far. I hope you guys are loving it as well. And I'm actually really excited because I think possibly starting Monday might be too soon. I think maybe starting probably mid next week or the week after, I am going to be in a new studio space. So it's been a long time coming, but we have been recording the podcast at my house for the last year and a half since we started filming it, basically. And I have ripped the Band-Aid off and got ourselves a dedicated studio space that we will set up. So that will reinvigorate me. And I share this studio space with Sean's office. So when I record Mini Scroll, I basically have to make sure that he doesn't have a meeting or anything because he works mostly from home. So it's been quite a juggling act. I'm excited to have my own dedicated space. Anyways, let's get into these stories for today. So the first story is a little update from a story from yesterday. So Revolve has responded to the Stagecoach after party backlash. So yesterday we talked about the Pizzaslime Revolve Stagecoach after party and how it basically went viral on TikTok because there were two lines at the entrance, one that said creators who have over 1 million followers go this way and creators who have under 1 million followers go that way. Pizzaslime, that's kind of their whole thing, their whole shtick. They're a streetwear brand and they kind of poke fun at influencer and celebrity culture. So people were kind of maybe this is a Pizzaslime shtick, but because they were collaborating with Revolve, who are known for being very, very exclusionary when it comes to the creators and the influencers that they work with, and they kind of helped create that culture in the influencer space in general, it rubbed people the wrong way. So now Revolve has responded. They made a TikTok and they basically posted this video that said, POV, you go viral, but it wasn't even your best sign. And then they posted a montage of some of the other signs at this event that were trolling, basically. So some of the signs that they posted included princess parking only and general last parking at the parking lot. They had water bottles that they were selling or giving out water bottles that said vegan water. And they also had a sign for the bathroom that said pee pee poo poo. So I think it's safe to say that the 1 million followers versus not 1 million followers, those signs were part of a bigger shtick that they were playing at this after party. But again, the collab between Pizzaslime and Revolve is really interesting. And I feel like it's maybe showing that Revolve is self-aware. They've received a lot of backlash in recent years, especially with TikTok, with the rise of TikTok. They didn't adapt, I think, very well to the changing influencer landscape when TikTok first popped off, and they didn't really know how to include TikTok creators without getting blasted online. For kind of their shady influencer practices that worked before with YouTube and Instagram influencers, because Revolve's peak was really around the time when influencer culture was very aspirational and there was this mystique around it. And TikTok really lifted the veil on a lot of stuff. So Revolve was a little bit behind on that. So I think that this is actually a good indicator, this after party and kind of this trolling. It's a good indicator that Revolve is now ready to be a bit more self-aware and they are adapting with the changes that come with influencer culture now with TikTok. The next story that I have for you guys is honestly absolutely enraging. I haven't felt this passionate and angry about a story in a very long time, but I'm going to be talking about how the beauty brand Youthforia is being called out by consumers for expanding their foundation shade range to include black face paint. And if you think that sounds bad, it gets 100 million times worse. So let's go. Last year, Youthforia came under fire when it released a skin tint serum foundation with a very non-inclusive shade range. The foundation had 15 shades, but the darkest shade was a golden brown. So off the back of this criticism, the Youthforia founder Fiona Ko-Chan made a TikTok in October, which she has since deleted. She said the brand intended to extend the shade range before launch, but wanted to test the products out with some initial shades first. Quote, "It was always my intention to launch this as a proof of concept to see if people even liked the base formula. I thought if the project was such a flop, then we will have to start over." That is literally always the excuse. Just like off the bat, that is always the excuse that anyone, whether it's fashion that's not being size inclusive or beauty that's not being shade inclusive, that is always the excuse. Either it's a money thing. It's like, well, we didn't want to spend the money on creating, bigger sizes or like a full shade range. So we just created shades or sizes that are like our typical consumer, quote unquote. Or they'll say, we didn't even know if this was going to work. So we just wanted to release a few shades and test it. Well, why couldn't some of those shades be very, very dark shades? It's just such a cop-out. I don't think anyone takes these excuses seriously anymore. But because they tie it into a business decision, quote unquote, they think it makes it easier for us to digest, because I think they think that we don't understand. I think that they believe that they can dupe the general consumer because we don't have our own brands. We don't know the ins and outs of their finances. They think that's a viable excuse. Okay. Anyways, so now the brand has launched 10 new shades of the foundation, and people are even more mad because the darkest shade, shade 600, is quite literally jet black, as black as my nail polish. So the week of its launch, Youthforia sent a message to its insider crew, which is basically its brand ambassadors, writing, "Seeing some confusion on our TikTok from people who are suggesting that our darkest shade of foundation, shade 600, is black face paint and not meant for real people. We created shade 600 as part of our 10 shade expansion this past March. We heard everyone loud and clear last October that our shades were not dark enough or inclusive enough." Okay, so I think this is an interesting message to touch on because it shows that they expanded the shade ranges in response to the backlash, as opposed to what Fiona initially said to us in her TikTok in October, which was that she always wanted to have a diverse shade range, but she just needed to test the formula and see if people even wanted the product. So this is a very telling post. The message also said that the shade didn't match anyone in the US, but claimed that Fiona visited Dubai while testing and found 2 people who this shade matched. Okay, so there have been countless videos of creators trying the product and comparing it essentially to black face paint. And this comparison was confirmed by cosmetic chemist Javon Ford, who broke down the ingredients list for the darkest shade in a new TikTok video. Quote, "Here there is only one pigment, CI77499, which is just black iron oxide. No other colorants. This foundation literally only has pure black pigment," he said. And then he did go on to correct himself in the comments, saying he missed, quote, "a small amount of white added." So gray. They literally made the foundation dark gray. But to make matters worse, the marketing campaign around this shade expansion was so racist. I don't even know what other word to use because that is, in my opinion, exactly what it was. So when they released this expanded shade range, they had a photo of all the different models. It was like a grid photo of all the different models wearing all the different shade ranges, like little squares, okay? And at the very end was shade 600, and there was no model, and it was just instead a black swatch of black paint, basically. So everyone was like, what the fuck is this? You couldn't even find a model with this skin tone. And it seems like that was intentional because they were trying to use this marketing collateral and create this fun little series where they went, quote unquote, in search of somebody who suits that skin tone to be their campaign model. And then in this TikTok, Fiona goes to this photo store. They take pictures of this guy that she found, and then she basically put him in as the model for the campaign. So somebody commented on this TikTok saying, "How did you find the other models? Through casting? I'm just confused as to why you couldn't find a model with a deeper skin tone." And then the brand responded saying, "Hi, we held a casting call open to the public, but didn't have any attendees who showed up that were within the 600 shade range. which is what led to this journey to find a 600 model with like this emoji. Woo! So everything Fiona said in October about this like being a proof of concept, kind of test and learn thing with this foundation launch is completely contradicted now by this like quote unquote marketing campaign where they tried to do this quirky, fun little model search for shade 600, because they are telling us that they did not create the shade with anyone in mind. They did not have anyone that they tested this product on. So there was no proof of concept for shade 600. So that tells me, in my opinion, that this whole marketing campaign around shade 600 and creating shade 600 in general, that is like a microaggression brought to life. Like, to me, this is just blatant racism. This is a brand being very pissed off that people were upset that their shade range was nowhere near deep enough and diverse enough back in October. And she's essentially punishing people of color for that feedback. And then the implication of doing this kind of like, model search for shade 600 is what? That you couldn't find any dark-skinned models that you felt were worth paying, like all of the other lighter-skinned models? Is that what you're saying? Because I'm assuming that the man that ended up being the model wasn't paid. He was literally found on the street. But I think the overarching issue here, there's a million issues, but I think like the biggest one, at least in my opinion, and I would love to hear any feedback from you guys, especially if you are somebody that has a hard time finding your shade range. I would love to hear this. But, I think from my perspective, the bigger issue here is that this was such a disingenuous attempt, quote unquote, at being inclusive. And these disingenuous attempts happen all the time, especially in the beauty industry, and they literally incite racism. Like, now the comments of all of these creators who are trying shade 600 and saying this is literally just black pigment, this is black face paint, their comments are filled with people being racist towards them, saying like, all you guys do is complain. A brand makes a shade the darkest that they can and you still find something to arc up about. It opens the door for racists to be like, nothing is ever good enough, so why even try? And that, in my opinion, makes what Youthforia has done here malicious. I believe it was intentional. I believe it was the brand, the founder, throwing like basically a temper tantrum that people didn't like the initial shade range and they had some feedback about it. And this is honestly one of the most shocking things I think we've seen in the beauty community for a very, very long time. All right, and the last story that I have for you guys, need to bring a bit of levity to this. Taylor Swift is allegedly going to be attending the Met Gala. So a few days ago, TMZ reported that Taylor would not be attending the Met Gala, despite obviously being invited. I'm sure she is invited every year. They also said that Travis Kelce was invited but would not be attending. However, today, Swifties are excited to see that a new report from Page 6 says that she will be attending. And the Page 6 article also acknowledges the TMZ article that said that Taylor won't be attending. So it seems like their sources are probably pretty sure that Taylor is going to be going to the Met Gala. And I mean, this is like kind of a nothing story, but she hasn't been to the Met Gala in 2016. And there are actually a few viral TikToks right now going around of people being like celebrities who used to go to the Met Gala but haven't gone in a while. And of course, Taylor Swift is on that list. And there seems to be this trend where like, quote unquote, something happened in 2016 where that was like the last year that a lot of really mainstream celebrities went to the Met Gala and then they kind of stopped going. And my theory on that, I would love to hear your guys' theory too, but my theory is that it's probably because 2016, if you think about what was happening in the influencer landscape then, this was the height of the YouTube beauty community. That is when influencer culture was starting to break through to mainstream culture. So I believe this was probably, I would say it's probably like 2017, 2018 when big influencers started getting invited to the Met Gala. And I think the direction just kind of changed. It's not that I think celebrities started saying no to going to the Met Gala because influencers were attending, although I'm sure there are some that have started doing that. But I think it's more that typically to go to the Met Gala, a brand is inviting you because you buy like a table. So my theory here is basically that I assume that a lot of the brands that are buying tables and are typically inviting A-list celebrities just started inviting influencers instead. So yeah, I'm interested to see if she goes. I will do a Met Gala recap next week. Regardless, I don't know how I'll do it, but I will figure it out. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening to Mini Scroll. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. It helps me so much. It helps me grow. I love you guys, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.